Now, our last session before we move into the breakout part of today's conference is going to explore the importance of LGBTQ plus inclusion and will be delivered by Betilda Jhansi. Inclusion in educational institutions, I should say, is such a crucial requirement, something that I know well and do in my day job. Betty is joining us to provide a sneak peek into the report Fostering Pride in Higher Education by BCG, Pride Circle Foundation and IIMA.
Hello folks, I'm Betilda Jhansi. I'm part of the report team at Pride Circle, and I am here today to present a report which has been acting as a catalyst in diversity and inclusion in Indian educational institutions. This report is called Fostering Pride in Higher Education, The Road to Inclusion, which is put forward together by Boston Consultancy Group, IIM Ally, which is the queer safe space group in IIM Ahmedabad, and Pride Circle Foundation. In a comprehensive view of the situation on LGBT acceptance in our country, we surveyed over 1,700 students from across colleges spanning different states, educational disciplines, and degrees. We also interviewed various founders and members of student support groups within the colleges, the professors, and the members of the community. And this is presented to you a holistic analysis of a scale which has never been done in India for the LGBT community. And to understand acceptance towards the LGBT community, we took a 5-dimension of acceptance. The first dimension is awareness and knowledge about the community. While most people seem to be aware of term LGBTQ+, only 35% knew a corporate leader from the community. Second is perception and attitude that individuals have towards the community. Sadly, only 21% of students in colleges without support groups for LGBTQ community still believe that homosexuality is either unnatural or a disease. Third dimension gauges acceptance when LGBTQ individuals are seen as members of the large Indian society. While many students supported equal rights for the community, some still had apprehensions. Fourth, acceptance is seen at a personal level. When LGBTQ individuals start becoming part of our close circles, half of the respondents from colleges without any support groups were not comfortable having an LGBTQ roommate. Fifth and final, acceptance is vocal and active support towards the community. A mere 27% of the respondents in colleges without support groups said that they had called their parents out on discriminatory statements against the community. As seen from the stats above, we find that the situation remains dire in Indian campuses. That is 64%. That is 2 out of every 3 LGBTQ plus individual who are not out to everyone about their sexuality have experienced discrimination. The most common discrimination being in the form of mocking, comments being made by peers, followed by bullying, not being taken seriously because of their sexuality, to even, moving towards social exclusion. And going forward, we dive deep into the issue to understand the differences in the experiences of the members of the community and the non-community members, and found that there is a huge gap in terms of acceptance and support from the peers and faculty. To break it down, we divided it into 3 main aspects, such as being oneself, peer support, and instructor family support. These statistics shown on the screen shows clearly that discrimination against the LGBT community impacts not only the learning experiences, but also the overall well-being of the person. And here we see how the report talks about how the presence of a support groups helps the community feel safe and accepted. These statistics clearly show that the presence of support groups strongly correlates with the creation of a more inclusive and safer college campus, and also students in colleges that have support groups are more active in demonstrating their support for the community, even if spreading awareness in their personal circles, and to understand more about the support groups, though colleges do have ally groups and very less groups dedicated only for LGBTQ community, which has its own pros and cons. One of the pros, Suranjan, the co-author of this report, and I heard from many folks during our research, is that people who are not out can still work towards diversity and inclusion without being subjected to a default notion that they are from the community when it is when they can pass as an ally and only come out when they feel safe and comfortable, right? But still, there is a lack of visibility of inclusive spaces, which we talk in detail in the report, be it gender neutral washrooms for trans people and non binary folks. And there is also a lack of inclusivity within the HR policies framework, too. Though few colleges, like a renowned law college in Bangalore, held a hackathon to draft policies for safeguarding LGBT community, which was put forth with the collaboration 40 other law colleges all over India. But the implementation of it is still due in many colleges. So, what does the community say? What does the community want? Members of the community expect to be treated equally. End of the day, equality and equity, and self-respect and being accepted within the spaces they are in is the end goal of everything. However, there are various conscious and unconscious biases which can be tackled with the help of support groups, and which is also the primary agenda in this report. And the community also agrees that it helps them to be themselves fearlessly and cultivates DNI, that is the presence of a support group, and being called out on homophobic and transphobic jokes come across as an indication that this is a safe space to be in. And also adding to that, they also said that professors initiating conversations about LGBT within a classroom scene also helps in terms of changing people's unconscious biases. The question why should colleges take affirmative actions to create an inclusive environment? Fundamentally, colleges have a responsibility towards their students to provide them with an environment where they feel safe and comfortable along with the students. The college also benefits from inclusive policies in terms of attracting diverse talent and also the ratings ladder. But above all, an inclusive environment in college will create a better, more caring academic ambience for all, mainstream as well as minority and underrepresented groups. In spite of all these affirmative actions and support groups, still 83% of students from the community do not feel safe. Shocking, right? So, how do we create an environment which is truly safe and inclusive? We'll focus on this moving forward. So, establishing a DNI support group is a movement in itself and has to be part of a well planned campaign. We have devised an exhaustive 6-step framework to guide the deployment of such groups in higher education institutions, considering key stakeholders and the level of contribution to every step. The steps are conceptualize, mobilize, propose, launch, and recruit, activate, expand. So throughout our research, we did identify a few colleges that was commonly faced by the members of the support group while initiating this idea within their campus. The first was being opposition from the stakeholders. This is expected whenever something new and out of the mainstream is introduced, which is why we have focused on creating a network of like minded individuals to gather maximum support. The second one is the break in momentum. Due to change in leadership, this can be mitigated through interventions across recruitment, development, and communication with existing and the new members, and by adding uh, a robust alumni network can also go a long way. And the next one is the lack of a supportive environment. And the prevalence of homophobic statements in closed spaces often discourage the deeply closeted LGBTQ members from coming out. Hence, it is very important to create a sense of community for all. The next one, The absence of policies for transgender students, that is, the lack of gender neutral infrastructure in terms of washrooms or dormitories or hostels, and also the non existent gender affirmation support policies can force trans students to drop out or change their career paths. You can find the report, download it, it's free, and we will guide you through it. It is on our website as well. So have a look at it, share with colleges seeking to provide an inclusive environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Betty. There is so much work to be done, but as you highlighted, support is so vital to LGBTQ plus inclusion, whether it be from groups, networks, and with policies that are supportive for those of us most marginalised within the community. Now, remember, if you're interested in learning more, please download the report from Pride Circle's website, www.thepridecircle.com. I hope that you have been feeding in your questions in the chat box. Remember that we will answer those via a blog. And as we come to, the end of our main stage, before we kind of go into the breakout, I kind of just wanted to bring it back a little bit and really think about some of the things that we've kind of just heard. Ken starts us off in how we should come together and work together. Not only is it the responsibility of businesses, but also the employees within it to really come and show that solidarity, that allyship to each other, to kind of move the LGBTQ plus inclusion dial so that it is utilized into our very existence. When we spoke to Nancy Radrani and to Fabrice, it was really think about where we've been, but also as we move forward to the future, how we can impact each other in making sure that inclusion is in our everyday and part of our ethos, not only as part of our cultures, but really the community that we build within our businesses together. And as we've just heard from Betty, it's about making sure that inclusion is really ingrained from the very top, that education piece. And so there's a piece around what we can all do to each other, as we have spoken, as you heard throughout the last 2 days, and as we've talked to the topic of allyship and what does that mean, we're making sure that it's not passive, but it is really, I being a bit controversial, the word that I would prefer to ally is a co-disruptor, because there is action in it. But if you are someone who understands the unique needs of LGBTQ plus people, then you know that being an ally means that you're not just an ally for each other as community members, but also for those outside. And so much of what you've learned for the last 2 days, what you've heard, the experiences, those stories that you've had access to and to witness to, have really given you so much depth of knowledge to be able to really inspire each other as you go back to your workplaces following the breakout sessions today. So I really do hope that it has been a really informative conference, that the amazing change makers and leaders that you've heard throughout the last 2 days have inspired you. You've met people that you never met before, and you've heard about experiences of different people within the LGBTQ plus community that you can go and share with other people in your networks, so that we really can utilize not only our existence, but inclusion in the workplace as well.